For everybody who's here who's not part of Academy or that doesn't work with and doesn't know, I just wanted to give a little bit of an introduction. So welcome to our AE Study Visa Options webinar with our fabulous lawyer, Edward Miller. Please feel free to interact. We're here to help you, to guide you, to give you the information. So please feel free to ask any questions throughout. You can send it in the chat, or please feel free to open up your microphone as well and unmute yourself. Likewise, we will reserve some time at the end as well so we can answer your questions. For us, Academy of Entrepreneurs, our mission is to supercharge you with the entrepreneur's skills and network to succeed. So we are an accredited incubator as well as a school. So our purpose is to help you succeed with your business. Also follow us on social media to get exclusive invitations. We're running weekly workshops, guys, completely free. So be sure not to miss out on them. And you can follow us on the following social media. So we've got Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram are our main channels. And if you wanted to reach out to us, you can do so via writing to info@astudy.com or contacting us on this phone number. You'll be reaching out to me. My name is Annalise. So please feel free to get in touch as well if you have any questions. And then finally, thank you so much to Edward Miller. So he is our trusted migration lawyer. I have put his details here as well, and I will be putting his email and his phone number again in the chat if anyone missed it. But please feel free to reach out to him anytime. Super trustworthy, and he's here to kind of help and guide you guys as well. So yeah, that was that. Thank you very much. And I will now hand over to you, Edward.
All right. Thanks, guys. For those ones who don't know me and sort of haven't attended our previous seminars with the Academy of Entrepreneurs, my name is Edward Miller. I'm the director of Miller & Colors and Migration Agents. I'm a migration lawyer, so I will be able to sort of answer all your questions. I'm sure you've got some questions already written down because some of you coming from sort of a various background, some of them got some ideas about what sort of a visa you would be expecting at the end of your studies or midway through. I can see that there's some agency representatives who are already familiar with sort of a visa process and options they usually sort of advise their clients and their students. So I'm not going to bore you with the PowerPoint presentations because usually I don't like, sort of attend events with the PowerPoint presentation. It gets sort of a bit boring. I've got everything in my head, put it that way, because I do this all the time. And I've got quite a few clients who I personally sort of represent, and I know all the sort of subclass visas by heart and obviously the process and procedure. I mean, I won't be going down into the details of each visa application process. That will take us all night to sit and going over everything. But I will obviously give you a snapshot and of each sort of a visa, the most popular visas, what particular either your student or you as an individual would be interested to look at the end of either your studies or upon expiration of any of your visa. I've been sort of dealing closely with the Academy of Entrepreneurs. I know very close friend of mine, CEO Paula Mills. She's fantastic. And she's been helping a lot of entrepreneurs in the school to achieve their obviously goals, to set up their businesses and sort of strive in Australia, and obviously helping international students to achieve their dreams and obviously staying in Australia longer or permanently and continue around their business. So I used to be also a lecturer at the Academy of Entrepreneurs. And I've been, sort of a trustworthy friend and a lawyer, which dealt with a lot of AE matters, including intellectual properties, property sort of problems, visa, obviously, options for all the international students and the clients. And I would be more than happy to help you guys to go over your questions, either through this sort of a seminar, webinar we're usually doing, or separately via, face-to-face either consultation or a quick call. I mean, usually how I sort of operate at my firm, I would require you to, if you've got particular questions to me, later on in regards to your private matter and your private visa situation, I would be more than happy. Send me a quick email to edward@visa pte-australia.legal, and I will be more than happy to reach out to you and sort of analyze your situation and give you some viable options towards the future. So this evening, we would be talking about several visas, because unfortunately we can't cover all of them, even though I love to talk a lot during my seminars, and I usually go over the time, but unfortunately we've got this 1 hour, and I would like to sort of stretch it out, where I will give you a brief sort of information on few sort of visas, the most popular visas people, international students, individuals looking at towards the end of the expiration of their current visa or their course. And I will allow at least half an hour of questions in regards to any particular visa they're interested, not just those ones which I will cover during this seminar. So I would be more than happy to answer all of those questions. I remember all the process and visas by heart, done it numerous times, and I would be able to give you detailed answers immediately. Okay, let's start with sort of a basic sort of questions. A lot of clients come to my doors, also students, either from Academy of Entrepreneurs or from everywhere. Upon completion of my studies, either it's a diploma or advanced diploma, what choices would I have? I mean, to start thinking of what choices you have in general in order to stay in Australia, you might think of few things, okay? First, an education. You must be graduated from some sort of education. If it's an Academy of Entrepreneurs, it's a diploma, advanced diploma. If you planning to study further, obviously that would benefit you, but also you need to consider two things. Your age, which is very important for any substantive visa, particularly which will take you to permanent resident. Age is very important, because there are permanent resident visa in Australia which limit your age cap to be eligible. And the second part is the most, well, not the most important, quite difficult for a lot of international students, is English test. Okay, so each visa depends on the visa we will be talking about, would require you to score different sort of a test on any of the approved English tests, whether it's IELTS, Pte, TOEFL, OET, and some other ones which are approved by the Department of Immigration. Think about it. If you're looking at the temporary visa, obviously the English test score would vary compared to if you're applying for permanent visa. So obviously, the more permanent visa it is, the more sort of the better score you need to achieve. I mean, there are particular visas which could potentially lead you to permanent residence with the minimum English score, but all the visas which are substantive visas and will sort of take you to the path of permanent residence, or take you to the path of the sort of a longer visa with the full working rights, would require you to do the English test. So those things are very important. So the last but not the least thing, obviously important, the work experience. So if you started in a particular field, or you already started something back home, like a bachelor degree or something like that, and you're just doing the continuation of the study in Australia, you also need to demonstrate some sort of work experience. There are certain visas which they don't, which does not really require to show substantive work experience, but working visas, for example, which we'll talk a bit later, would require you to demonstrate work experience after your qualification. So let's talk about what is the sort of a possible temporary visas which allow you to stay longer in Australia after your graduation or completion of your course. So the most common sort of visas people are searching for and looking for after they completed their course or during the course, for those ones who already have some sort of an employment while they study. Okay, so we will be looking at training and research visa. It's right now it's sort of called training visa. It's subclass 407. Okay, if you guys taking notes, just take genuine notes on what I'm saying, but try to sort of understand what I'm talking about. So later on, I can always speak with you personally and sort of expand the conversation in more details. So there are training visas, which allows any individual to be sponsored by the employer for the purpose of training. Okay, so training visa, the duration of training visa is for 2 years. So what it is, it's basically when employer, when you find an employer interested to offer you a traineeship, paid, obviously traineeship at their company, the 407 training visa would be the most of the choice for those ones who just recently graduated and do not have enough work experience. Okay, and we're talking about the minimum work experience you would need to demonstrate is 1 year or less. The biggest key point towards the eligibility for this visa from you is to complete your qualification within 12 months of applying for the visa. So it's very simple sort of a process. The employer would need to obviously be an approved sponsor. They would need to nominate the position for you and prepare a training plan for the duration of the visa. So this visa is sort of for the purpose of your entrance to the industry. Okay, gaining practical experience in particular occupation. Let's say that you are interested to the employer is interested to train you in marketing. Let's say sales and marketing manager. You've been working in marketing sort of a section of the business, and the employer said, we would like you to train you to become a manager. The training visa is usually for up to 2 years period, but it could be for 1 year. So it basically depends on employer and you for what duration you would like to choose your training. So the training would have to be structured based in-house based training, and the employer would need to prepare a detailed training manual to demonstrate to the Department of Immigration that you just recently graduated is interested to be trained in this type of position for the period of up to 2 years. This sort of a visa does not lead you to permanent residence. Okay, it's sort of a temporary visa which allows you to obtain Australian work experience in the field or in the occupation you are obviously interested to pursue in the future. Okay, so a lot of my clients using this sort of a stepping stone towards the getting a working visa, which obviously we'll discuss that a bit later, where you need to demonstrate that you have been sort of skilled and qualified and it had at least 2 years work experience in the given occupation. So training visa would sort of will help you to qualify you for 2 years work experience in your chosen field, okay, towards the eligibility for the 482 working visa. So training visa is much in terms of the costs of the training visa from the Department of Immigration. It's much less than working visa or skilled visas you probably researched about. It involves you to have an employer who is happy to offer you a training, and it's very suitable for those ones who just simply graduated within 12 months or completed their course in 12 months, and they do not have sufficient work experience to be sponsored for working visa by the employer. But this visa also requires you to have an employer who would be happy to offer you a training position. But don't forget that the training position has to be paid. So you would be a full-time trainee, and obviously your remuneration package would be discussed with you and the employer, and you would be working for the employer. This sort of a visa allows you to travel. I mean, really travel, but you know, due to the COVID, now things changed. So obviously, but generally speaking, this visa has no restrictions on travel. So you would be allowed to travel. You would be only allowed to work for the same, be trained for the same employer, okay, for the duration of your visa. And then once that visa sort of comes to the expiration, we could sit down and have a look at the next steps, which would be either further working visa or some other substantive visa, which will take you to permanent residence. Okay. If you're thinking of other sort of a visa which is closely attached to the employer requirements. This visa is the most common, which I've done numerous of them. It's called 482 working visa. So it's an employer nomination to work for the company. So it's a lot of people call it sponsorship visa. Okay, if you heard of that. So what is this involved? It's very similar to training visa. Okay, I mean, the requirements are very similar, particularly that you need to have an employer who would be happy to offer you a full-time position for the specific period of time. Okay. Obviously, the minimum requirements for the working visa, for sponsorship visa, which is subclass 482, you would need to obviously be qualified, to have a qualifications, certificate, diplomas, bachelor degrees in that particular occupation you're applying for. You would need to demonstrate at least 2 years work experience after your completion of your course, either it's a bachelor or diploma or advanced diploma. And obviously the English test is a requirement. But in terms of the working visa, the English test is, I mean, in terms of the score, it's very basic. Working visa usually divided in two sort of streams. One is for the long term, and the other one is for the shorter term. Okay, and there are two specific occupation lists which designed to choose from in order to be eligible for this visa. So there is one occupation list called medium to long-term strategic list. You probably heard of it. It's the same list you could use to pick whether you're eligible for skill visa, for direct skill permanent residence, if anybody knows. But there are two lists for the working visa. One is the medium to long-term strategic list, and the other one is a short-term strategic list. Okay, so it depends on where your occupation lies, on which of those lists will determine the length of your visa and the opportunity to have that sort of eligibility for permanent residence through your employer at the end of the 3 years period. So let's say you are graduated engineer, as an example, and you do have 2 years work experience and you did well at English test, and you have an employer who is willing to sponsor you to be an engineer. So the first thing usually what I would do, I would have a look where the engineer occupation, in what list it's listed, either it's on short-term or long-term. So I can tell you for sure the engineers are listed on the medium to long-term strategic list. And if we would apply for the working visa for that individual, the visa would be approved for up to 4 years with the employer. And after 3 years of working for the same employer, the person could potentially be eligible for permanent residence. Okay, let's say your occupation is marketing specialist, and you've got an employer who is interested to sponsor you, either marketing manager or marketing specialist in their company. You do have relevant qualifications in marketing. You do have at least 2 years work experience, and you did okay in the English test. And the employer obviously wants to sponsor you to work, you know. So in this case, same thing. I would be looking at the list where marketing specialist or marketing manager stands under. And I can tell you for sure, marketing manager stands under the short-term occupation list for the time being. Okay. So what does it give you? So this sort of any occupations on the short-term list, generally speaking, they do not lead through to permanent residence through the employer in regards to 482 working visa. That is the reason why the list is called short-term strategic list. It's only for those ones who are interested to get an Australian full-time work experience with the employer for the duration of initially for up to 2 years. Okay, so the visa would be granted for up to 2 years. After that, you would be also eligible to renew your working visa with the same employer for another 2 years, and then basically you won't be able to renew it again. So you pretty much also get this 4 years sort of a period on the short term, but unfortunately, any occupations on the list are not sort of eligible for afterwards for permanent resident through the employer. So that's one thing. But it's not a bad option for a lot of employers, because, and obviously for visa applicants, because at the same time you're gaining a very good experience, full-time work experience, and you pretty much have almost 4 years to remain in Australia, live and work and travel, and obviously plan your next move, plan your next future, either to applying for different permanent resident visa than going through the employer path. I mean, if your occupation on the medium to long-term strategic list, you should be fine. If you work for the same employer for 3 years, you would be most likely eligible for permanent residence. If your occupation is on the short list, you will get time, you will get a chance to work for the employer for up to 4 years. But then during the 4 years, we could sit down and have a look, you know, what other options towards permanent residence would come up, and what would you need to do during those 4 years to be eligible. Because there are sort of a lot of visas in Australia which would allow you to apply for permanent residence. For example, there's a direct skill migration, which is independent migration. It's based on points. If you score sufficient amount of points, and obviously you have the required age, and you being invited by the either the Department of Immigration or by state, you would be eligible to apply for permanent residence. And you know that there are also permanent residence visas which are available for you in each state and regional areas. So there are a lot of options, okay, to aiming towards the permanent residence. The first thing is obviously to try to secure yourself, because all the permanent resident visas which require to be invited to apply takes a bit of a time, and you would need to be on some sort of a valid visa. So let's say I've got a client who wants to apply as a marketing manager, obviously through their employer. They would like to apply for working visa. The working visa would be granted for 2 years initially, and then they can renew for another 2 years. But during those years, we might be able to find him or her occupation elsewhere in Australia where it's listed towards permanent residence. So we can potentially concurrently apply for a new visa, permanent resident visa, and wait for that. Okay? So there are options you could do, even though you're applying for the visa which does not give you a path for permanent residence, like, for example, training visa or working visa, if your occupation on the short-term list. Okay, so there are other options. So what is the working visa sort of let you do? The working visa will let you only to work for the same employer. So this is very important. If you're running some sort of an enterprise or entrepreneurial activity, once you apply for this visa, you must stop all of those ones, because you would have a very specific conditions attached to a visa to work for the same employer and for no one else. Okay, that's one. Obviously, the other conditions would be to comply with your health insurance. You need to have your private health insurance, and obviously work for the employer diligently, and so on. Okay. As I said, the 482 visa could be approved for up to 4 years and up to 2 years with the option to renew. It depends where is your occupation and what list. Okay, but we will need to go through that analysis and see what we could match and what we could sort of shift here and there. In terms of the occupation lists, Department of Immigration sort of reviewing occupation list virtually every 6 months. So there is a possible chance that if your occupation is on the different occupation list, which does not allow you to go through the permanent resident path, there is a good chance in 6 months they could potentially move it back. So I had this kind of experience when I applied for an applicant for short-term working visa. He was very happy because, you know, even though he had no other option sort of to apply, but to, I don't know, extend student visa or something like that. So he's got the short-term working visa for up to 2 years. And suddenly, within 4 months of him being on the working visa, Department of Immigration decided to change this occupation and move it to the medium to long-term strategic list. And things obviously got changed, because if it's on that list, he was able to sort of aim for path for permanent residence. So those things do happen. And also the state occupation lists are changing their process also quite often and update their occupations quite often. So there are obviously lots of possibilities. It depends on your sort of personal circumstances, and obviously depends on sort of eligibility requirements, you know, for each particular path and sort of plan. So that's why
I was just going to say, we're getting quite a lot of questions in the chat box, which is great.
Let me open it up.
Some people are asking you specifically about the 188 Entrepreneurship Visa, and along with that, if there's still the possibility to actually sponsor yourself.
Okay. All right, let's sort of go one by one. I mean, I was planning to talk briefly about Entrepreneurship Visa, because it's sort of this is this is part of the business innovation and investment stream visas, 1AAA. And if you look at that visa was sort of for a very long time was too good to be true, because it required you to obtain, I mean, they called it really nicely, you know, I really like it, Entrepreneur Visa. But once you start looking at the dotted lines and eligibility requirements, you come to realization it was too hard to you know, sort of apply and too hard to obtain, largely because of the investor part requirements. So previously you were required to have, I mean, it still is required to obtain sort of funds from the approved entity, which is either the government institution, the private equity fund, or some sort of a government research institution, universities, colleges, and things like that. So that's how it was before. And the amount you would have needed to sort of acquire was up to $200,000. So basically, a lot of clients and people I've met who were interested in this visa, they were basically sending their business plans to the venture capital limited and were waiting and praying that somebody will pick up their business plan and say, your business is great, we're happy to offer you monetary sponsorship. And for a very long time, this visa was sort of I would say dead in the water, because obviously those companies, venture capital limited, you know, partnerships, they were basically looking for really innovative businesses, okay, and was very selective to whom they would be. They were happy to offer financial support with this kind of amount. Now, sort of the 1AAA entrepreneurship stream was changed. And the reform recently been conducted. I think that happened on 1st of July. So now you had an extra sort of an option to be eligible for it. So in addition to, if you will find obviously the approved investor who would be interested to invest in your business, you could also be nominated by the state. So what this visa basically changed, it's changed a little bit the stream, saying that if you have an investor, that's fine, you can start process down this path. If you don't have an investor, you could be potentially be picked up by the state government who would be interested in your idea. So it became visa by invitation. So in order to apply now through that, if you don't have an investor, obviously you would need to prepare a detailed business plan, explain your entrepreneurial activity, and launch so-called expression of interest. Also, you would need to state where your businesses will be located. So if it's in New South Wales state, obviously you need to specify where it's going to be. So if you're planning to open in Queensland, you would need to send an invitation to Queensland government. If it's in New South Wales, New South Wales. And then obviously you would need to wait until you would get some sort of a answer, or sometimes no answer, unfortunately. But it depends on, you know, what sort of a New South Wales government or Queensland government or other states government think of your business. Okay, but at least you wouldn't have to look for the investor first before lodging your expression of interest. So there are two things you could consider it. If you ask me, the question was, would there this sort of a visa is still viable for a lot of entrepreneurs? I would say yes. If you believe that your business has an innovative idea, which would be bring benefits of, let's say, New South Wales state, if you're planning to apply in New South Wales state, I would suggest to prepare all the documents to launch at least expression of interest. What is expression of interest? It's an application which you send it to the Department of Immigration, and that sort of application goes to that particular state to review. They will review your documents. They will review the information. What is the business all about? How this business bring value to the state, and obviously how this business will obviously increase employability of locals, and generally how it will benefit the state. And if your business will be successful, you will be invited to apply for the visa. Once the invitation will come, then you could prepare all the documents in support of actual visa. So the invitation is not a visa. It's basically a letter, an application, which sent to either a particular state through the Department of Immigration to be considered. Okay, so it's better option now than it used to be, because before, if you don't have an investor who is interested to invest in a certain amount of money in you, you could forget about this visa. Okay, where now that it's split in two, where if you have an investor, that's great, you go this stream. If you don't have an investor, but you've got a great idea about the business, each state might be interested in you. So launch the expression of interest, prepare your business plan, present your business really well, and wait for that particular state to come back to you saying that, yes, we're interested in your business. We believe that this business will bring benefit to our state. Proceed with the visa application through the Department of Immigration. So I've got few clients who actually inquired me recently, about going through that sort of a stage. They could not or were not able to get any investors in terms of their business, but their obviously ideas are very innovative. So I helped them to obviously do the first stage, to launch the expression of interest with the Department of Immigration through few different states. One was New South Wales, the other one was Western Australia, and I believe one application I did recently with Northern Territory, okay, government. And they're still waiting. It was a recent application, but at least they do have hope that the state might pick that up and say, yes, your business is actually fantastic idea, your business idea is fantastic idea, your business will potentially benefit the state, we want you. Okay, so this visa obviously will allow you to continue once you apply and the visa is granted. The visa will allow you to operate your business for a certain period of time before you would be eligible for permanent residence. The eligibility for permanent resident, that's the continuation of the Business Innovative and Investment Visa, which is AAA. Obviously, you will need to demonstrate that you still continue operating the business is doing well, and nothing sort of bad happened to you or your business. We're talking about liquidation, closure, or some sort of a legal issue. So if you still be able at then to demonstrate that the business is operating with a view of a profit, you should be able to apply for permanent residence stage. But the key to take out from the entrepreneur visa now is that they let this sort of a stream into for those ones who are unable to find an approved investor. So you do have a chance to launch the expression of interest and do have a chance to be invited to apply for the visa based on your innovative business idea. Okay, so does that answer sort of a first question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So the other question was what age? Obviously, there is an age limitation. Each state sort of if you're doing through the expression of interest, each state is sort of a different, but usually you have to be under 55. If you're over 55, you need to provide a substantive sort of reasons why your business will definitely bring value to the state, and why the New South Wales or any other states will have to consider your business even though you're over 55. Okay, for the very simple reason, If you're over 55 starting up a new business, obviously the government would be a little bit concerned that whether you would be able to make it or not. So the younger you are, the better, put it that way, for the business sense. Okay. I believe the next question from Angela. Hold on a second. No, from John. Has the course need to be closed or related to the occupation training visa? Well, the course has to be closely related or in the field of the occupation we're applying. So if you've done, for example, let's say diploma in business and advanced diploma of business, and you're trying to apply for the position of marketing, I don't think it will help you because it's not very closely related to marketing field. Okay, if you're trying to apply as a, for example, managerial position, it might be relevant, but obviously the occupation you're choosing for training visa and the course you're completing has to be some sort of related in some sort of a field, either direct related, bachelor in marketing, I'm applying for marketing manager, or you know, I have a bachelor or a diploma which had marketing subjects and I completed them successfully. It's related to the field, therefore it should be accepted. So if it's not in direct field, we need to provide a lot of submissions to convince the case officer that the qualification you obtain is closely related to the occupation you're applying under. Okay. Can you please talk about global talent visa at some point? Okay, the global talent visa, okay, this is sort of a totally different sort of area. The global talent visa, I'll talk a little bit about briefly, and I've done quite a few of them. This is sort of a very interesting area where talented people will be allowed to apply for permanent residence. So that's what this whole nature about. Australian government are welcoming talented people and want them to keep on Australia. So this is the whole what's this visa all about. So there are specific sort of areas of talent and definition of talent Department of Immigration requires. So I mean the areas of talent, it could be education, professional, work, and sport or any other recreational activities you think there is a talent. So these are the areas the Department of Immigration will be looking at. I mean, there is a specific second stream of that where a PhD graduate would be able as well to apply for it, regardless of the field. But most of the clients I had, they sort of demonstrated some sort of a previous talent. So what is talent? Talent means that you excelled in your either profession, qualification, or, for example, let's say sport. Okay. You would need to demonstrate that it's an internationally recognized talent. It's not just in Australia. Internationally recognized talent, obviously, they would accept any documents which confirm that you are internationally recognized. We're talking about awards, certificates, articles from overseas, showing that you've done and achieving results. The simple way of to explain it, let's say that you're a sport player. You've got a bachelor's in sports. You've been a sport person, let's say a football player. You've been participating in World Cup. You've been participating in all kind of tournaments around the world. You won an award, or your team won an award. You're one of the leading players. You don't have to be the best, but you shine in your previous career. And obviously, you would need to be nominated by an individual or organization in Australia who would say that, yes, we believe that this person is exceptional. Australia will benefit having this person because he has a talent or she has a talent, internationally recognized. In this case, the Department of Immigration obviously will process the request, and if you're successful, the permanent resident visa will be granted to you and your family if you have it. Okay, so but the key is to demonstrate that you're an internationally recognized talent, that you still proficient in the same area, that you are being endorsed by third parties. We're talking about reference letters from organizations, individuals, to justify that you have a talent. Any work you've done, any project you completed globally wise, you know, obviously also would be a benefit. You would need also to have an individual or Australian company. Let's the same example as the football player, sporting organization. We would like to endorse you, saying that yes, he is of an international talent, and if the visa would be granted, we definitely want him on my team or something like that. Okay, and you know, once those documents been completed, the visa application goes into Department of Immigration for consideration. And if they believe that you as an individual with a global talent will have a benefits to be in Australia and pursue these talents, the permanent residence visa would be granted. Okay, so this is sort of a shortcut, but I would need obviously definitely analyze your set particular scenarios. Why do you think you have a talent? How would you show your talent? How this talent will benefit Australia? Okay, and then we'll see whether you will fit into the visa criteria. Okay, the next one, can you please talk about, okay, visa at some point? Yes, done that. Can I sponsor myself? Okay. Yes and no. Okay, there's a lot of sort of a talk previously about self-sponsorship working visa, and I done quite a few back in the past where it was an old 457 working visa. Now they've changed it to 482. What is the sponsoring yourself? So ideally, in any startup business, not any, but a startup business is capable to sponsor their employees and sponsoring you as well. So if you have a business and it's a company, and your company is interested to sponsor you to work in it, it is possible. However, there are a lot of requirements which needs to validate. If you ask me, whether the startup business, which is a business operating less than 12 months, capable of being approved as a sponsor with the Department of Immigration, the answer is yes. So either an established business which been operating for more than 12 months, or startup business which has been operating for less than 12 months is capable to be approved as a sponsor because it's an Australian company. Okay? Once you register a proprietary limited company in Australia, it becomes an Australian company. You as a director, you could be obviously from overseas, you know, having let's say student visa. Okay, so your company would be able to potentially offer you a position and sponsor you for the specific period of time. So there are strict requirements obviously needs to be made, where before, previously, the Department of Immigration looked at this sort of a scenario as a startup business working visa as very sort of relaxed. Nowadays, Department of Immigration introduced rules where you do need to have an Australian sort of a partner or a director who manage the company in order to offer you a working visa under the same company. I mean, I could talk, if you're particularly interested in this sort of a set scenario, very interests you, I would be able to have a private sort of a discussion and give you details on how the company needs to be structured, what is the director limitation on their management, because if you are the founder and you're not part of the management, obviously it gets a little bit you know, dangerous to let someone else to run your business, put it that way. Okay, but it's possible. The answer is yes. Okay, but obviously it's much more than meets the eye, and much more sort of details I would need to offer you in order to you know, sort of for you to make the right decision. So if you're interested in this type of visa, feel free to shoot me an email, and I will be able to have either consultation or quick chat over the phone, and we'll see how we can proceed if that's the choice you're interested in. But the answer is yes, it's possible. It's still possible. Okay. Next question. Please speak about MREs to overseas students. They're eligible to get post-study work visa 485 when they complete their program overseas. In terms of the program overseas, I mean, postgraduate visa, there are two streams of Australian postgraduate visa. it's for those ones who completed an Australian qualifications in the required field. It's either graduate diploma, I believe, or the bachelor or master degrees for the duration of 96 weeks, which is 2 years minimum requirement. Then we would be eligible for postgraduate visa. Some universities who have partnership in Australia, they are also able to offer postgraduate visa for overseas students, but to come to Australia on postgraduate visa. But it has to be, it depends on the country of origin and depends on the university, whether the university have an agreement with Australia. Okay, so for example, there are a few universities in India where they have a relationship with the sort of Australian universities and the same program, and the Department of Immigration basically recognize that university and recognize that degree, and those students, for example, in India, are capable to come to Australia on postgraduate visa. But the first thing, there is a list of countries and the list of universities Department of Immigration approved. If you graduated from that university, that particular course, you would be able to apply for postgraduate visa from overseas to come to Australia. Yes, that is correct. But we need to have a look at the country and university and the course you studied. There is a specific list for it. What else? Okay, do you still have to have PR visa if you're employed by a university after expiration of 4 years of course PhD study in Australia? Well, I mean, do you still have to have PR visa if you are employed by university after expiration of 4 years post PhD study in Australia? I mean, if you are still on the student visa, I don't quite understand this question, but if you're still on the student visa, you obviously would proceed. I would suggest to, and urge you to continue to apply for permanent residence visa if you're eligible. Depends on the visa, either it's a skilled visa or something like that. There is no automatic transition to permanent residence once you complete your PhD. You have to obviously get ready, have a look at what visas you would be available with your PhD. PhD will give you an additional massive amount of points if you complete your PhD for skilled visa, but definitely before the expiration of current visa, even you doing PhD, you would need to consider what permanent resident visa you need to apply for. Okay. Someone texted again, entrepreneurship visa. I think I already touched a bit about it. Can you apply for the business visa instead for an established business? It depends on how long the business was established, whether this business was established by you or you purchased one. But the answer is yes. There are visas which will allow you to, part of the business innovative stream sort of a visas. You could see that there was entrepreneurship stream, there was a business innovative stream visa, which designed for those ones who either purchased the Australian business or they've been operating it, but obviously different requirements apply. So it's very different to entrepreneurship visa, okay, for an established business. But if you are, for example, running an established business and you established it a year ago, it's still sort of could be considered as a startup business and could be considered for entrepreneurship stream as well. Okay, so it doesn't have to be a startup business which been operating for less than 1 year. It could be an established business which been operating for a while. How while it's a question of obviously the Department of Immigration and case officer to decide whether it's a valid business or not. For the purpose of this visa. But generally speaking, I had clients who applied for entrepreneurship visa, lodged the invitation, and they've been operating their business for almost 2.5 years. So that's possible. Okay. Next question. What is the general requirements of business to sponsor someone on 407 visa, such as income threshold, period in business, number of employees of any? Okay, that's a good question. Okay, any Australian an established business, and I would stress an established business, startup business will not be able to offer training visa to any applicants. For the simple reason is, it's a very logical. Why would a startup business will spend resources on training somebody if they need to spend all their resources on establishing it and employ people who will increase the business? Okay, so usually, I mean, theoretically it's possible, but I would not sort of try to convince Department of Immigration, because it's very logical. So what are the requirements of the standard business? I mean, it's the business, I would say, who've been operating for more than a year. Why is that? That the business done the recent financial documentation, profit and loss balance sheet, and end of the year taxes. So that would show me and the Department of Immigration that the business would have a profit. The simple answer is, there is no magic amount of money the business needs to operate. I mean, to generate at the end of financial year. Okay. Sorry. It depends on several factors. So basically, the business basically need to establish a few things. First, that they're legally operating in Australia, that they pay their taxes, that they pay all their expenses, and they have enough money to continue to operate the business and pay their current employees. That's all it is, pretty much. So it's basically a business which is operating, has enough money to pay salaries and pay their expenses, and obviously go on with the business for the years to come. Because don't forget, training visa would be approved for up to 2 years. So the Department of Immigration only want to make sure that the business is not going to close down in 1 year. So if you think of how much money the business needs to generate, enough to continue operate. There's no strict dollar figure. What is the size, financial size of the business it should be? That is the first answer. Okay? So any Australian registered business is capable to obviously offer training to overseas students. The second sort of answer, obviously, the larger business, the better, because we would need to, once we launch the business sponsorship approval, we would need to establish that, or explain the case officer, why does this business need to train this particular person? So it's the questions usually answer, it's either because this person is so bright and will increase the revenue of the future, let's say marketing manager, and I've done quite a few of them, saying that this person is very bright, they have a large network, they're hardworking, we would like her to be trained because we believe that this person will increase sales in our business and increase, obviously, the revenue. Why are you planning to sort of offer traineeship instead of hiring a full-time marketing manager? Because we would like to retain our staff and obviously provide them training to increase their qualification, obviously their salary, their opportunities, and increase our business. So that's always would be a question to the business from the Department of Immigration to why would you need to train somebody? And it's not very difficult to explain. But the company just needs to simply satisfy a few requirements. One, operating. Second, obviously, show that they pay their taxes and income and have sufficient funds to continue to operate. That's all it requires from the business. So it's not so harsh sort of requirements. And usually, I would say 99 out of 100 Australian businesses, they're all getting business approved. Okay, I never had any refusal in my last, 16 years of practice. Okay. In terms of the employees, yes, I mean, the number of employees also matter. Obviously, the number of employees determines also sometimes the size of the business. Obviously, the more employees the company has, the more company looks legitimate and big, and with the view of a profit and with the need to train somebody. Okay. Obviously, if you have only 2 people operating the company, the case officer will come back and say, hey, your company is very, sort of not that massive. Please explain, why do you need to train somebody? Why don't you want to hire full-time staff? And it all could be explained. It's not an obstacle. Okay, it just gets easier if the company is big, but it doesn't mean that the smaller sort of businesses will not be able to get the business approval. That's not true. Okay, so everybody could be potentially eligible to approve. The one thing is, it has to be a company. Sole trading enterprises cannot train, cannot sponsor anybody. Okay? So it has to be a proprietary company or trust or charitable organization or something like that. Okay. Next question. Do you think that education agency may be good material to apply for 188 visa? Well, I do have my agency as well, and I can tell you for a fact that if you started your educational agency, which is pretty hard right now, I feel sorry for you. I mean, but things will get better for sure. It's going to be an avalanche soon of students. For the purpose of 188 visa, I can't give you a legal answer, but the personal answer and how you feel with the industry, I would say that Department of Immigration will not be too keen to grant 188 visa to individual who open an educational agency to bring the students to Australia. Okay? I think it has to be some sort of a different innovative field, because education industry is huge, but it's not an innovative company, you know, for the very simple reason that there are a lot of educational agencies out there, you know, so the immigration will ask what's so innovative about educational agency nowadays in Australia, and there would be not much you could say about it. I would rather to have a look at the different sort of a visa streams, or even start up some sponsorship sort of visa to have a look what could be done there. And have a look at the different options. But I believe, and that's my personal sort of opinion, student agency will not be sort of a very successful for 188. I mean, we can always lodge the expression of interest and see maybe a state would be interested in it. For example, I would believe if you establish an educational agency in Northern Territory, 188 could be potentially a winner. Why? Because Northern Territory is the state which welcomes international students and as well as Australians, obviously, to build the states, because they just don't have enough workers and people living in Darwin. And they want to improve their education system and obviously amount of good universities and colleges in Northern Territory. So maybe 188 could be caught up by Northern Territory government, who knows? But either way, you could potentially launch an expression of interest. The worst case scenario would be that they will not come back to you. No states will come back to you. But I would suggest to also think of plan B, not just rely on 188. Next. So 188A, if we apply for the sponsor, do we need to prove the profitability of the business or the time of operation or good business plans? It is what we need. Well, the simple answer to that question, and we need to, because 188A, that's sort of a part of the business innovative sort of a stream. It's not an entrepreneurship stream, so we would need to discuss in person. But just to answer all the questions, the answer is yes. You need to prove all the above. Okay, or at least majority of it. It depends on your circumstances. Okay, but I would need to have a look details on what is your plan and why are you looking at 188A. Okay, so contact me sort of separately and we'll go over the entire process. So I would also be able to understand what are you intending to do with the business.
Yeah, thank you, Edward.
You're welcome. The next one, does previous visa refusal from another country impact on the new Australian student visa application? If yes, is there anything need to do to mitigate that? Okay, to mitigate that, please don't get any refusals. But however, I mean, if you've been refused, because part of this visa application, I believe now it's sort of the question embedded in every single visa application. Have you ever been refused for the visa in Australia or overseas? So I would also answer, you have to answer honestly, okay? Because the Australian Department of Immigration, when they look at those questions, they are basically trying to catch you in lies because they already know everything. So think about that, okay? Because nowadays the foreign governments are communicating with each other. I mean, federal police, communicating with things, and the Department of Immigration knows more about you than you know about yourself before you even apply for the visa. So those questions are for specifically, basically to say if you're a liar or you're not, So it's better to state things how they are. So if you've been refused in a foreign country, you need to tick yes, and then explain why. Either, I don't know, overstayed by 1 day, or I don't know, something happened, whatever particular reasons. But obviously, if you say that you overstayed, the Department of Immigration, might think that you would do the same thing in Australia. So to answer the questions, you need to state everything. Whether it will definitely impact on your visa application in Australia, generally speaking, answer no if you disclose everything honestly and explain. That's all it is. I had clients who had not just visa refused, but detention and criminal charges and so on. We ticked yes. We explained the chronology, what happened. We explained that the person learned the lesson and it will never happen in Australia, and the person got their visa granted. So generally speaking, overseas visa refusal from other countries will not severely impact on Australian visa, okay? But I would strongly suggest to disclose and explain things properly, so later on, if you apply for the next visa and hopefully, near future permanent resident visa, this question will not bite you back. Because if you say no just because you're scared of disclosing things, and later on, when you apply for permanent resident visa, there would be specific documents you need to provide from each country. And it shows up that you had refusals there, but you didn't disclose in previous application, it could severely impact on your visa. So I would say, discuss with me what exactly happened, how things happen. So when we apply for the visa, I could write a detailed explanation, which will not hurt your Australian visa and will not hurt your future visas. But once you disclose it and immigration accept it, that's fantastic. So you don't have to talk about it again and again and again and explain yourself. But generally speaking, overseas refusal should not impact on your Australian visa if you disclose, and depends on the explanation we will provide. So we have to be very careful what to say and come up with a creative answers as well. All right. The next question. Can you get an appointment with you either on Zoom face-to-face to discuss about personal situation, and how much does it cost to me? All right. So on this seminar, I'm not going to talk about fees or anything like that. I believe you've got my email address. So it's edward@visa-australia.legal. Yes, the answer is I do Zoom online consultations and obviously phone consultation, WhatsApp consultation at any time sort of suitable for you guys. I usually work till 12 a.m. I've got overseas clients, so we could set up either Zoom consultation. With COVID, I don't do at this stage the face-to-face one because we're not allowed technically, but Zoom ones, yes, we do, either phone or Zoom. Please send me an email with your phone number, and we'll coordinate the date, time, and obviously I will explain you what needs to be done, what needs to be sent to me to review beforehand, and the fees and so on. So just send me a quick email, and obviously we'll take it from there. But the answer is yes, we can set up a consultation. That's what I do.
Thank you.
That's okay. Next, please do. Okay, yeah. Which English test better for visa purposes in your opinion, please? IELTS, Pte, or any other? All right. Better in the brackets. Okay, that requires me to answer in the not in a legal way. Okay, so in my experience, seeing hundreds and thousands of students through my agency and clients who've been struggling to get their English tests and results for any particular visa, I sort of came up with the not a sort of a legal answer and not a definitely yes or no which one test is better, because each test has its own pros and cons. Okay, it depends for what visa you're applying for, and depends on what score you need. Okay, there is no sort of a specific test which is better, either PTE or IELTS. I mean, but generally speaking, think about it like if you're not just asking me a legal opinion, but just my personal opinion based on how many applicants applied through, I mean, gone through me and told me their stories of success and failures in English tests. So PTE, it's an online test, just like all of them now. IELTS used to be on the classroom, now it's online as well. The difference between PTE and IELTS, probably some of you know, PTE is an academic requirement, okay? And it's valid for anything, any sort of a visas across the visas, but it's an academic English test. So by hearing that it's an academic, you kind of expect a little bit next level of difficulty, okay? Because it would be a bit more difficult to get the relevant score, put it that way, if you're English at elementary level. Compared to, for example, IELTS test divided in two. One is the general and the other one is academic, where PTE only academic, okay? If you think, and what feedbacks I got from all my clients, some clients said to me that IELTS easier than PTE. Some clients were saying that PTE is easier than IELTS. I mean, in terms of the questions and things like that. I sort of disagree with that. I look into it more, and I've seen the tests as well, you know, how they're conducting the tests and what are the questions they're asking. It's not as much as the difficulty part, it's just a strategy to get the score you want. That's all it is. I mean, the structure of the tests are very similar, except I believe that PTE is academically wise, it's much sort of not difficult, but requires you more English skills to pass it and get the relevant score. Where with IELTS, you have a choice, general and academic. So for example, if you want to take the IELTS and you don't know which one to choose, either general or academic, you would need to think one thing. If you need the IELTS for the purpose of visa, don't go with academic. No need, don't need it. Go with general. Then the question is, why do IELTS have an academic part of it? It's because some of the Australian big universities, or most of them, requires you to demonstrate your English proficiency before starting bachelor, master in Australian university. And they require you to undertake either PTE, because it's academic, or IELTS academic, because what is IELTS academic? Basic requirement is minimum 6 in IELTS. Okay, so you have to have an academic English in order to enroll to Australian university to study bachelor or master. General part of IELTS, because there is a general component, you can choose either academic or general. General one, it's a basic test for any visas you basically apply. So I would assume general one would be easier than academic test.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of, if you guys follow me. The other thing about IELTS that and obviously PTE, with IELTS, if you decide to go with IELTS, I always suggest, because I've noticed a pattern, you know, with a lot of students who are trying to get the IELTS test to relevant score, and I had you know, clients who did it probably 8 or 9 times or more. And unfortunately, you know, they were failing. What I found that the pattern is that the less crowded place you go to do the test, the better. So a lot of, I don't know, it's just the simple reasons. I mean, if you're sitting doing the test in the center of the Sydney CBD with, I don't know, 300 or 400 students, there is a probability that you could score less than if you go and do the test somewhere in the regional, for example, at the University of Newcastle, where there will be probably, I don't know, 5 or 10 people doing the test. You know, so it's not really a formula for the success of a better test. It's just an insight. I just noticed that people who go a bit of regional area where there's less people doing the test in the same room score much better compared to those ones who are sitting in the room of 300 or 400 people probably doing the test. Okay, so these are the tips. The answer to your question, there is no better test. I mean, they're all pretty similar. It depends on what visa you're picking on and what test you would pick on. I mean, for a lot of my clients who asking me this question, who applying for working visa and they really need minimum, like for example, for the working visa, the IELTS test, it's very minimum. You need to score either 5 overall or 5 in each. So it's very, very basic. So I usually suggest them try IELTS general. Don't go for PTE academic or IELTS academic, because the only thing you need just 5 in each. You don't want to spend money going over and over trying to master the academic test if you really need just a general. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I put it in the quotations that like it better, because yeah, it really depends what for.
But this is just my personal insight. There was no legal base on saying this test is better than the other test. I mean, back in my days, I did TOEFL.
Right. Yeah. I remember that one too.
I passed TOEFL in my old times, you know, and I mean, it was hard.
Yeah.
I would say. But if you ask me TOEFL or IELTS or PTE, I would choose either IELTS or PTE.
Is the PTE for longer than the IELTS? Because the IELTS is typically for, I believe 2 years expired. PTE is what, sorry?
3 years, I believe.
3 years? Okay. Have you heard from students who took the IELTS online at the moment? Is it better than sitting in the class?
I've got 3 clients who recently took IELTS online, and they say it was easier than in the class. Yes,
easier, a little bit less stressful, I guess.
Yeah, because in the class you have this frustration and anticipation and nervousness where you go and do online and you're in front of the computer, nobody looking at you. It depends on the individual. Like some people I know, they're very good with computer skills. I mean, they're very bad at handwriting, but they're very good at typing, and they type very fast. So I would definitely recommend them do online tests. Okay. Or for example, some people are very like I don't know, technological. You know, they like a lot of people from IT industry, architects, engineers, for some reason prefer PTE. And they do very well on PTE.
Do you know how is because there was one part, it's done basically like an interview with the person. How is that done online at the moment?
Well, I think it's all over the phone call, I believe.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
They're trying to manage all these things.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it depends on how person comfortable with the computer. Because even if that person English is really good and slow typing on the computer like me with 2 fingers, there is a good probability that you're not gonna score well, not because your English is inadequate, it's because you're just too slow.
Yeah, right.
I would recommend people just to go and do it in person.
Okay, awesome.
It also depends on the age. You know, if you want to recommend them either IELTS or PTE, if you I don't know, getting a 40 years old man to do the English test, I would definitely suggest him to do or her class based, because I'm sure they are not that fantastic at typing.
Right.
You know, so it depends, but the tests are pretty much I think similar. So there is no tricks there. It just depends on how comfortable you are with the computer and how proficient you are with English to try either academic PTE or general IELTS. That's
all right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Edward.
That's okay. Next one. If an international student has completed 1 year Australian degree program at 1 year Australian degree program at overseas due to closure of borders, the student visa is still valid for another 8 to 10 months. Would he be eligible to travel to Australia to look for post-study work opportunities on student visa, or he will not be allowed to travel for work as a degree is already completed? Shed some light on something. Okay. Could you please elaborate that? Because I know that you're trying to create a scenario, maybe your personal one or someone else. Could you explain it in words if you can? So I would be able to sort of understand what.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go on.
Yeah. Actually, I'm the overseas. I'm a student from Macquarie University. I'm doing my MRes. I'm in the second year of my program, and the first year was exempted. I'm now enrolled into the second year, and my degree would be completed by January or December. So I have my visa will be valid till September 2022, October or September. So would I be, once the degree is completed, would I be eligible to travel Australia and look for opportunities, because I have part-time work allowed?
If you have a valid visa at the time when they opened the borders, the answer is yes, and you completed the degree. So if your visa is not cancelled for whatever reasons, like you didn't complete the degree, you didn't comply with your visa condition, yes, you can be able to travel. Once they lift the travel ban, everybody with the valid visa would be able to travel. Yeah, that's not a problem.
So during this time, once I get there, so would there be any possibility to apply for the post-study work visa subclass 485 during this period? As I'm studying overseas, I'm not in Australia right now. So as the requirement suggests that the student should be studying at least 16 months. Yes. So he'll be eligible to post-study work visa, but I'm studying overseas. So what is this?
Yeah, based on what you're saying to me, I believe yes, but we'll obviously need to have a look in details, your eligibility, and obviously the course and the university, you know, if they're eligible to do that. But the answer is so far yes, it's possible.
Okay, all right, that's okay. Thank you.
So we've got, I don't know, another few minutes, I believe. I think we went even over time. Are we, or how we're going, Annalise, with the?
Yeah, so we have gone over time, but it was good. I saw you kind of answered a lot of people's questions there, which is amazing. So that's pretty much it, to be honest, Edward. Thank you so much for your time once again.
Yeah, just the last bit. I mean, if any of you got more questions or wanted to talk about the private stuff, either to enroll to AE or in regards to the studies, obviously, Annalise got all my details, and you've got my email address. I'm more than happy to reach out to you. Just send me a quick email with the quick question and leave your phone number so I could give you a call. I'm also available on WhatsApp. So if you are not in Australia, but you're overseas, that's quite okay. I can call you your time. That's not a problem. And we can go over any particular scenarios, questions. If you're at the agency and you've got particular sort of students or clients who would be interested to know more about particular visas, I would be more than happy to discuss with you and facilitate that for your agency as well. Okay. So if you like, I can leave you my WhatsApp number in this text. If anybody would like to discuss later on, I mean, not tonight, but, you know, someday, you know, set up a quick chat or phone call, I would be more than happy to sort of add you in on my WhatsApp and discuss your particular case. So that's my WhatsApp. Obviously, if you're contacting me from overseas, just 8 + 61, and you'll be able to reach me. But you can also reach me through the Academy of Entrepreneurs, and Annalise, Paula Mills. I'm constantly chatting to them and creating plans for them and helping them with their college as well as the students. I'm constantly available. Okay, so any other last questions? I'll be more than happy to answer. Otherwise, thank you so much for everyone. Nice to hear from you all. And do not be afraid asking me questions. Shoot me an email, text me on WhatsApp. Happy to answer.
Edward, can you just repeat to me your mobile number, and I'll put it in the chat? It seems it didn't paste.
So it's 0415 97 9767. And if you're from overseas, +1 +61.
Cool. Fantastic. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. And I will see you guys soon.